Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into something pretty wild. We are going to figure out why zero, literally the absolute simplest number you can think of, is actually one of the deepest, most profound ideas in all of math and philosophy. Over the next few minutes, we're going to unpack exactly why nothing is never quite as empty as it seems.
So let's just address the elephant in the room right off the bat. If zero literally represents nothing, how on earth does it manage to shape our entire understanding of value, absence, and existence? I mean, it's a huge paradox, right? The paradox begins the exact moment you realize that while zero represents nothing, it absolutely behaves like something. It's an active force. I want you to hold on to this one idea for me. Zero is the shape that nothing takes when we need to think about it. Keep that in the back of your mind because it's going to guide this entire explainer. You see, once mathematics finally gave emptiness a shape, nothing was never just plain old nothing ever again. To really ground this, picture an empty charpoy. You know, a traditional woven bed sitting right in the middle of a busy Peshawar hujra, a gathering place. At first glance, it looks like nothing is happening there. It's just an empty seat. But that emptiness completely changes the dynamic of the room. It creates a specific pause, a position, a social meaning. If you took that empty bed away, the entire pattern of how people gather changes. Basically, nothing is not the same as the absence of an effect.
Which brings us to section 1. Zero is a tool. It's not just a decorative symbol.
See, a symbol just sits there looking nice, but a tool actually changes what you can do. It's exactly like a hammer. A hammer isn't just a heavy chunk of metal and wood, it's a tool that lets you build things. Zero is a tool that lets us organize reality. Its very first quiet superpower is acting as a placeholder. It has zero value on its own, sure, but it fiercely protects position. Imagine walking into an auditorium. Zero is that empty chair that tells you exactly where everyone else is supposed to sit. Without it, the whole arrangement, like the digits in your bank account or a phone number, becomes a confusing mess. It's kind of like looking at an empty shelf in a bookstore. That emptiness isn't meaningless at all. It's doing a job. It tells you exactly where a specific book should go, what hasn't been filled yet, or what someone just bought. Zero does the exact same thing in our number systems. It shouts out, hey, this position matters, even if there's nothing in it right now.
Okay, another superpower. To compare any two things, you absolutely need a reference point, right? Zero is that baseline. Think about the zero mark on a ruler. It doesn't actually measure anything in the traditional sense, but it tells you exactly where the measurement has to start. Without that starting line, the rest of the numbers are just completely meaningless. It's this quiet, steady line that lets us actually see change, whether we're talking about a company's profit, the temperature outside, or physical movement. And speaking of change, zero acts as a crucial threshold. Consider something as simple as a glass of water. First, you have water. Then you drink it, and it's gone. That exact shift to zero tells you a process is over. It marks the precise transition where one state ends and a totally new one can begin. So it's not dead space. It's literally the edge of movement. Now let's step it up a notch. Imagine two people pushing a heavy box with equal strength from opposite sides. The box doesn't move a single inch. The net result? Zero. But does that mean nothing is happening? No way. Those forces are intensely real, active, and perfectly equal. This is what we call exact cancellation. In this case, zero means perfectly balanced activity, not a lack of activity. So we've got this beautiful contrast that we really have to recognize. There is a massive difference between nothing as a fact, just true, blank emptiness, and nothing as a result, which is that highly active, dynamic balance of opposing forces perfectly canceling each other out. If a business has a balance of zero at the end of the month, it doesn't mean no business happened. It means every single gain was perfectly matched by a loss. To build a truly wholesome understanding of all this, let's pull these pieces together. Zero works across so many different scenarios. It marks a missing presence, like our empty chair. It holds position, like a seat number. It creates comparison, like that starting mark on a ruler. It shows equal opposites, like our two people pushing the box. And it marks transitions, like a glass emptying out. It is way more than just a label for nothing. It's a working tool that actually makes emptiness usable. Just take a second to look at this shape. Section 2, the boundary of absence, where math meets the void. We know what zero does now, but where exactly does it live? Well, it sits right on the boundary between absence and structure.
Mathematics essentially takes a blank void, gives it rules, and suddenly absence makes sense. If the number line is a landscape, 0 isn't a mountain or a valley, and it's definitely not just another random house on the street, it's the horizon line. Positive and negative values literally only make sense because 0 sits right between them. Take it away, and you completely lose the concept of more versus less. And this is where it gets incredibly cool, philosophically speaking. 3 apples is a set with 3 things. 1 apple is a set with 1 thing. But 0 apples is a set with no things. Think about that. It brilliantly allows math to represent a state even when that state contains literally 0 objects. It is the absolute limit of counting. We're essentially counting the uncountable state of having nothing to count. Which leads us right into the great paradox of basic arithmetic. 7 plus 0 equals 7. It seems so trivial, right? Almost like a joke. 0 contributes absolutely nothing to the actual quantity, but it contributes everything to the structure of that equation. It's a neutral element. It steps into the math without distorting the value, preserving the relationship perfectly.
Section 3, a cognitive upgrade, literally changing how we think.
Because really, this isn't just about getting better at math. It's a full-on cognitive upgrade for how we interpret the world around us. We are stepping into pure thought here, where the human mind uses these categories to sort reality. Think about a completely blank notebook page versus a page with just a single dash drawn on it. Both are extremely close to nothing, but they communicate totally different things. 0 acts exactly like that dash. It takes vague ideas, like lack, interruption, or neutrality, and gives them a usable, sharp edge. It's an instrument of thought that actually gives a form to absence.
So, what does this cognitive upgrade actually let you do? Well, you can now notice structure where everyone else just sees blankness. You know to ask what remains when something completely disappears. You automatically look for the baseline before you judge a change. You fundamentally understand that nothing can carry intense, profound meaning. You aren't just doing math with 0 anymore. You're interpreting it.
When you pull this entire system together, you see that 0 is the ultimate bridge. As a placeholder, it proves absence has structure. As a baseline, it proves difference needs a reference. As a cancellation point, it proves opposites can produce nothingness. It takes quantity, structure, and human thought and perfectly connects them into one cohesive framework. And that leads perfectly to our final takeaway. 0 is not the absence of thought. It is one of the first places thought becomes precise. The next time you see a 0, you won't just see a blank, empty number. You're going to see a threshold, a perfectly balanced system, and a deeply structured way of viewing the universe. So I'll leave you with this. Where else in your everyday life might nothing actually be doing everything? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Catch you next time.